The time of year is mid-January. People here ski down mountains, skate on frozen lakes, toboggan down hills, and snowboard. In another place, at exactly the same time of year, people walk on beaches in search of shells. They play golf and sail in the warm ocean breezes. How can people participate in these contrasting activities at the same time of year? The answer lies in differences in climate. Climate is the general weather of a region over a long period of time. During the next few minutes, we're going to take a look at some of the factors that affect climate, and we'll also explore some of the different climate types. You decide. What's the major difference between the climate in northern New England and the climate in Florida? Most likely, you said temperature. Temperature has a major impact on the climate of a region. Let's take a look at some of the factors that influence the temperature of a region. Latitude is the measure of the distance north or south from the equator. It's measured in degrees. The latitude at the equator is 0 degrees, and the latitude at the north and south poles is 90 degrees. Areas near the equator receive the sun's rays more directly throughout the year, and these regions experience a relatively warm climate year-round. Areas farther from the equator and closer to the poles receive the sun's rays more indirectly. These regions tend to be cooler and can experience very cold temperatures in winter months. Therefore, it can be said that lower latitudes have warmer climates, and higher latitudes have cooler climates. While latitude is a very important factor in influencing the temperature of a region, it's not the only factor. Let's take a look at some of the other factors which affect temperature. In the fall, the temperature in the valley is 5 degrees Celsius. But on the mountaintops, the temperature is much cooler at -4 degrees Celsius. You decide. What major factor accounts for this temperature difference? A difference in altitude or elevation is largely responsible for this temperature difference. Elevation is a location's distance above sea level. This mountain, for example, has an elevation of over 3,000 meters. Generally speaking, as elevation increases, temperature decreases. This is the major reason why snow still remains on this high mountain in August. The ocean and ocean currents also have a significant impact on the temperature of a geographic location. Water takes longer to heat up, and it cools down more slowly than land. This enables oceans to have a moderating effect on coastal regions. In summer months, coastal regions are cooled by cold ocean water, and in winter months, coastal regions are warmed by warm ocean water. Ocean currents can also affect climate. For example, San Francisco is cooled by a cold current which flows from the north, and the Gulf Stream brings warm water from the Caribbean to Ireland, moderating the temperature in this country throughout the year. Death Valley, California is a very dry place, averaging less than 30 centimeters of rain a year. Whereas Panama, a country in Central America, is quite wet, with parts receiving over 200 centimeters of rain per year. There are a number of things that affect how much rain or snow a region gets. These include prevailing winds and the topography of the land. You decide. What are prevailing winds? Prevailing winds are winds that blow predominantly in the same direction. Notice how these pine trees are leaning in the same direction. This is because, over time, the prevailing wind blowing from the west has caused them to lean away from the wind. Winds which blow across bodies of water tend to pick up a great deal of moisture. For example, as winds blow across the Great Lakes, they pick up moisture, which is then deposited in the form of precipitation when the winds reach landfall. In the winter, this can result in huge amounts of snow. Looking west from the California coast lies the Pacific Ocean. As winds blow across the Pacific Ocean toward the California coast, they pick up moisture. Running parallel to the ocean is a steep range of mountains called the Sierra Nevadas. These mountains act as a barrier to the moisture-laden winds, causing the air to rise. As the warm air rises, it cools until the water vapor it contains condenses or turns to small droplets of water. As a result, the windward or windy side of the mountains receives a great deal of precipitation. Large amounts of precipitation enable trees such as this giant redwood to become so large. But on the leeward or sheltered side of the Sierras, the conditions are entirely different. You decide. What is the climate like here? Here, it's quite dry. This dry region on the leeward side of the mountains is referred to as a rain shadow. This rain shadow extends well into Nevada, forming the Great Basin and the Mojave Desert. There are three major climate zones on Earth. These climate zones are delineated primarily by latitude. The main climate zones are tropical, temperate, and polar. The tropical climate zone is generally located between 30 degrees south and 30 degrees north latitude. It's dominated by warm temperatures throughout the year. The temperate zone extends from 30 to 60 degrees north and from 30 to 60 degrees south. This zone has seasonally fluctuating temperatures from below freezing in the winter to well above freezing in the summer. Most of the people in the world live in the temperate zone. The polar zones are located between 60 degrees and 90 degrees north, or between 60 degrees and 90 degrees south. Polar zones are dominated by cold weather in winter and cool weather in the summer months. Even though two geographic locations may have similar temperatures, their climates may be quite different. For example, southern Arizona and southern Florida both have relatively warm temperatures year-round. However, they have two totally different climates. You decide. What major factor accounts for this difference in climate? That's right, moisture or precipitation. Southern Arizona is a desert and receives less than 30 centimeters of rain a year, whereas this area of Florida, called the Everglades, is quite wet and receives over 150 centimeters of rain a year. The amount of precipitation an area receives has a significant impact on plant life. Deserts tend to have fewer plants and not as many varieties of plants. Here, plants have special adaptations that help them survive with a limited water supply. For example, plants such as this cactus have spines instead of leaves. This helps them prevent water loss. In the Florida Everglades, where moisture is abundant, the vegetation is lush, and there are hundreds of different kinds of plants. There are many climate zones in North America, each of which has a unique blend of plants and animals. One of the largest climate zones starts in the northern middle part of the continent and extends to the Atlantic coast. This climate is referred to as a moist continental climate. The climate is seasonable, with cool or cold winters and relatively warm summers. Precipitation tends to be moderate, enabling a wide variety of crops to be grown for food. In many places, forests with broad-leaved trees flourish. And in other places, tall grasses once grew, which have been largely replaced with cultivated fields and pastures. In contrast to the moist continental climate is the dry desert climate found in the southwestern United States and Mexico. This desert in Arizona is called the Sonoran Desert and is home to different kinds of desert plants such as the large saguaro cactus and the branching cholla cactus. Desert animals have developed ways to deal with the limited rainfall, hot daytime temperatures, and cool nights. Rattlesnakes and other reptiles are covered with scales, which help them prevent water loss. And these mammals, called javelinas, sleep during the intense heat of the day and travel at night when temperatures are cooler. They've even developed the amazing ability to eat prickly cactuses. This climate in South Florida is very different from the arid climate of southern Arizona. You decide. How is this climate different from the desert? The climate here in South Florida is much wetter, as we've said. This wet climate is called a moist subtropical climate. Here, summer heat and abundant rainfall make the climate similar to that of the tropical forests found near the equator. But in the winter, temperatures cool and precipitation decreases. Vegetation is seasonally lush, with many tropical species of trees and plants flourishing. This climatic zone provides habitat for a wide variety of birds, such as this heron. Reptiles such as alligators thrive here. They prey on a wide variety of fish and other animals. These are just a few examples of some of the climate types found in North America. There are many more that exist on the continent and throughout the world. Each climate zone has a different blend of temperature and precipitation, which provide the living conditions for different kinds of plants and animals. During the past few minutes, we've taken a look at the factors which influence climate, including temperature and precipitation. We took a detailed look at how latitude, elevation, and other factors may influence temperature. We also explored how winds and topography may affect the precipitation of a region. The major types of climate zones, including tropical, temperate, and polar climates, were discussed. And we studied some specific climates in more detail, taking a look at how climate affects plants and animals. So the next time you go for a walk near your home, or look at a map of the world, Think about the many different climates which make up our planet. You might just look at your own climate a little differently. Fill in the blank when you hear this tone. Good luck, and let's get started. Number 1. Climate is the of a region over a long time. Number 2. The latitude at the equator is degrees. Number 3 is a location's distance above sea level. Number 4, as elevation increases, temperature Number 5, winds blowing in the same direction are winds. Number 6, ocean also affect the climate of a region. Number 7, climate zones are delineated by Number 8, there are major climate zones. Number 9, tropical zones have temperatures. And number 10, the dry area on the leeward side of a mountain is called a